And I like to say, give what you have, and the universe gives you back what you don't have. So I know that when I invest fully in you, my relational capital, I'm going to get it back somewhere, some way down the road.
This season, it's the holiday season. We have a special guest today. All the way from Pennsylvania, he's now in Budapest, Hungary. And what a trip he has taken to get there. He's my friend, Steven Kuhn. This is The Unstoppables. I'm Bill Wooditch. And he just told me something that made me extremely jealous. He told me about the property he owns, he just bought in Budapest, and what he paid for it. And living in Laguna Beach, California, you make me jealous. Welcome to The Unstoppables.
Thank you so much, Bill. Honored to be here. Quite a long journey to get here, but I'm glad we got here.
Well, we're going to get to that journey, Steven. The best way to do it is to let you tell it. So we're going to start at 30,000 feet with the question, how did you get here?
How did I get here? Well, let me tell you first who I am. And I'm basically, to put it in a nutshell, I'm the expert at teaching folks on how to use influence to grow their business and drive revenue through what I call relational capital. So I'm basically the right hand for executives who want to turn dormant revenue that they're not aware that's even in their business, and then to multiply it from there. And basically, relational capital is your best asset to do that, and most folks don't even know how to use that. That's pretty much what I do.
Explain
how I got here.
Explain what relational capital is before we go.
Yeah. Relational capital is much like financial capital. When you invest in it, you get a return, you get interest, you get payouts, you get dividends, whatever it is. But the key is this is the trick, is that when I invest in you, say for instance, I give you what I have, whatever it could be. It could be my time, it could be my love, it could be money, whatever it is that I give you. And if I give you that without a direct expectation from you, then I will never be disappointed, number one. And number two, I already know that when I'm investing in relational capital, I will get paid back somewhere, sometime. And if I do that enough, I start attracting people and start attracting situations and creating influence. And with that influence comes opportunities. And with opportunities comes more money.
It's interesting because you've built a tremendous business, and you've done it without the expectation of an immediate return. Right. That is financial capital. And you're looking at relational capital, which I think is for everyone, that's a write down. That's something to come back to. That's something to emulate. So we want to get into that. And I think
okay, great.
But you want to tell me how you got from the eastern part of Pennsylvania? We just talked about this up in the western part. How you got from Pennsylvania? You're a decorated combat veteran. So take me through some of your journey. Okay,
well, I grew up in the typical, I call it Pennsyltucky. It's, central Pennsylvania, yeah. And between Philly and Harrisburg and everywhere in between. Moved quite a lot of times. It was the typical American, nightmare childhood, the typical things. You hated yourself. You went to high school or no, you didn't get along with anybody. I wasn't a jock. I tried to be, didn't work. I wasn't ahead, tried that, didn't even work out. So I sort of like skated around. I was a guy that could go to say hello to everybody, but wasn't in any groups. So the first thing I did when I knew that I could is I joined the Army. And I got out of there because I knew that if I could get out of there, I could become whoever I wanted to be. And I wanted to be somewhat different. So when I went to the military, I sat down. And when I sat down in that chair and they started cutting my hair off, I knew right then it's the new me. And from then on, I decided to make myself whoever I wanted to be. And that was at the age of 19. So I would say a late starter when it came to manhood, but an earlier starter when it came to manifesting my destiny, so to say. And then the Army took me to Europe. And after, when I was in Europe for 7 years at the time, then they sent me to Iraq. And after Iraq, I was like, well, I think I'm done. So I was done. And I got out and stayed in Germany. Then I moved to Austria, then Switzerland, then Spain, Portugal, then Poland, and a couple other countries. And now I'm in Hungary.
Begs the question, how many languages do you speak fluently?
Fluently 3, including English. Yeah. I speak about, 5 or something like that, but not fluent.
I'm still trying to master English.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Especially when you speak other languages. When you don't live in an English-speaking country, you actually lose your English. So if I go 4 days speaking just German or Hungarian, I'll come back, I'll be like, and the reason is this. It isn't because you forget Hungarian or English. It's because English, of all languages, has the least amount of vocabulary. So German and Hungarian have sometimes up to 2 times as many words than English does. So when I say, we have one word that means 20 different things. Well, there's 20 words for one thing in Hungarian, for instance. So
the idioms and
it's detailed down to the smallest.
There's a thing called neuroplasticity. That the more you learn, the more you're creating those new neural pathways. Your prefrontal cortex must be huge, my friend.
Well, it's funny you say that. I'm a big fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and that's what he preaches, right? Train your brain, or what was it called? Rewire your brain. Mm-hmm. I actually read that book in 2007, 2008, when I was in a Benedictine monastery in the Austrian mountains, which is where I went after a battle with trying to commit suicide. I disappeared into the mountains with these monks and read Joe's book. And that's when my journey to changing my life forever began. It was very powerful. And exactly that, I rewired my brain.
Yeah, some people have read the monk who sold his Ferrari,
Yes. Yes. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you when I tell you this. I went to that monastery, and there was a guy, Pata, they call him.
Ferrari.
He wasn't driving a Ferrari, but this is not kidding. When you become a monk, they give you a name. And they gave him a name, Pata Altmann, and that means old man in German. And because he joined when he was 45 years old, he became a monk. And before that, he was a banker who did what? Drove a Ferrari. Not kidding. I was like, was that you? He goes, no, that wasn't my book. I'm like, oh.
You sound like Forrest Gump to me. You sound like you've done about a little bit of everything. Maybe so. Let's dive into how did you get into business? You're out of the Army. You've been all over the place. And how did you become? You're handpicked to work with some of the most influential people in the world to expand their brand, build value, loyalty, and develop strategies for increasing beneficial relationships. How did you? Bang! All of a sudden, here you go.
I found at an early age that when I was in the Army, I was so interested in speaking German for one reason, because I was on the border when the wall was still up. So the Berlin Wall was up, and East-West Germany, Russia was the bad guy, that kind of stuff. And I wanted to learn German because I wanted to know what they were saying on the other side, because we had microphones over there. So I learned German, but I realized because I spoke German, I always got chosen for special duties. Go talk to the mayor. Go talk to the police chief. Because I could translate. I was like, wow, you know what? I can do this forever. So when I got out and stayed in Germany, I switched it around. I was the American guy that could speak English, right? So I started going around working as a doorman, security guy, selling insurance with my, sort of American, nice accent, I guess you could say. And it got me far quick. Then I crashed and burned, but I built it back up again. I crashed a couple times, psychologically and monetarily, I guess you could say, economically. But what happened is my first big break was with Mick Jagger. And I heard on the radio, and this is just to give you an idea of how I think. Okay, so I heard on the radio, Mick Jagger, the Rolling Stones are coming to Berlin, then they're going to Leipzig and coming back to Berlin to have a concert in the Olympic Stadium. And they said, and just on the end, they said, and his bodyguard's staying in London because he hurt his back. So I'm like, oh, he doesn't have a bodyguard. So because in Berlin, I had 3 cocktail bars that I owned after I got out of the Army. So I opened up cocktail bars as well. And I knew everybody in the restaurant and hotel business because I would have a restaurant and hotel night where everyone got 50% off everything they wanted to drink every Thursday night when they came to my bars. So I knew everybody. So I knew where the Stones were staying. I went into the hotel. I'm like, hey, guys, I'm going back to the bar. And they're like, go ahead, Steve. And I waited for them to come down. And they came down, the Stones. And I walked up to Mick Jagger. Hey, Mick Jagger, I'm your new bodyguard. And he's like, what? Who? And everybody's looking at me like, who sent you? I said, I sent me. They're like, well, who are you? I'm a U.S. Army, war combat veteran trained bodyguard, and I can carry. So I had a weapon in Germany, which is rare. So, and he's like, oh, talk to CJ, who was his security chief. And CJ said, look, I don't know who you are, what you do, but you got balls doing this. Answer one question, and you got the job. And I was like, what? He goes, do you know where I can get the best German sausage? I said, you bet I do. He goes, good, you got the job. And I got paid $400 a day for 3 weeks. So that's how I do business. That's literally how I got into business.
You've just become my favorite guest because I am a huge Rolling Stones fan.
No.
If I could get as close I don't know what I would do if I could get as close to you as Mick Jagger, man. I it's like forever. It's the Stones.
Yeah. It was a dream. It really was. And
was he cool or was he?
Mick is very introvert. He's very, very introvert. He sits on his hands in the car, and he's like very, like almost shy, I guess you could say. But when he's out of that car, he's that who you see. He's that personality. But he didn't drink. He didn't smoke. He didn't do drugs. This was 1998, and he kept calling me Martin. Wouldn't call me by my name. I have no idea why. Whatever. But the experience was amazing because he's singing songs like Painted Black and you're standing on stage going, I used to listen to this when I was a kid. My mom in the 60s, and I was like, wow, early 70s and stuff. And I'm sitting there, and I knew at the moment when I was watching, I'm going, I'm freaking living history, you know.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was a Voodoo Lounge tour or if it was, I don't remember which one it was, but I think it was a Voodoo Lounge tour.
Yeah.
And it was just incredible for me. And years after, I kept in touch with CJ, and I went, and then I met, I met through them, I met Steven Tyler, and then I worked for the MTV Music Awards in Berlin, the first European Music Awards. I was security chief. And I met, Jean-Paul Gaultier and Bjork, and then I met Steven Tyler and Tom Jones, hung out with Tom Jones and his wife. Crazy times. But that's all fun. It doesn't make you money, though, right? So it doesn't make you enough money to actually go into business. So I sort of got out of that, and I stayed at my bars, and I built up my empire, my bars, and opened a nightclub, got into some shady business there. You have no choice in Berlin, Germany, because the nightlife is owned by the mafia, so you either go with them or you don't. You don't exist. And someone came in the bar and said, hey, you're always doing something. I see you on TV and whatever. Would you like to help us bring a health club chain from South Africa to Germany? I was like, sure. Never done it, but sure, I can do it. So I did that. After 3 months, I was a GM. Then after 2 years of opening 70 locations in Germany and Austria, which I had a knack for some, who knows why. I ended up being headhunted by a British PLC, which is basically a listed company on the British stock market, London stock market. And they quadrupled my pay overnight. And I was making almost $500K a year just out of nowhere at 32 years old. So I had been out of the Army for less than 5 years, making, 21,000 a year, what I was making, and I shot up to almost 500K,
You had two things, you have many things, but there's two things that our audience, and we come bang on this every time we're on the air. You had the curiosity to build your skill set, which meant you wanted to hear what was going on the other side of that wall. And you built that skill of language. That opened doors for you, and you got in through competence. Tremendous competence at your age and stage of life to walk up to Mick Jagger. So you grew the skill set that opened up many doors for you. People don't know that there are those little things in life that are tipping points. They always think it's that one thing. All the accumulation of those little things, and my friend, I'll tell you, that's invaluable.
I love it because that you say that. I never thought of it like that, but you're right. It's you have a choice, don't you? You have a door, and some people, they'll see the door a little bit, but then you just sort of breeze by it, right? They don't even really look at it, and then they that's not going to happen. I mean, I did the same thing with Andrea Bocelli, and that was just 2 years ago. And Andrea Bocelli, I love the guy. I met two of his guitarists in a barbershop in Dusseldorf, and an Italian barbershop. Yeah. And next thing you know, they invited me to London to meet Andrea, and I said, I want to work for this guy. And so I went into the backstage, and I met him. We got a picture together, and I said, let's meet tomorrow in your hotel. Give me 5 minutes. I got something for you. You're going to love it. And I showed up. He wasn't there, but his wife, the tiger Veronica, was there, and her assistant, Alicia. And we sat down. They didn't know who I was, what I wanted, and why, or what, or how, or when. And I left 20 minutes later with a contract. So, and with a retainer. And in the music business, I don't know if you know, you never get a retainer. Yeah. So basically, I was renegotiating contracts, getting his other band members on air, getting them on TV, doing concerts, and breaking them out and doing their own thing, so his company label could make more money for them, with them. And they said, well, what about all the CEOs? Because I said, I know you have trouble talking to CEOs of all the record labels. Within 2 weeks, I spoke to every single one on their cell phone personally, and was invited to the UK and went to 4 different offices of 4 different record labels on the same day. And they said, how did you do that? And I said, I don't understand how you didn't do it. Right? So for me, there's no blocks.
Right. You just go. Yeah. The door is cracked. You'll go through the door. That's confidence. Yeah. You also have competence, which keeps that's the 20-minute contract with a retainer.
This is my favorite podcast. You're giving me all these compliments. This is awesome.
It's true. My experience here, I'm in awe, my friend. Tell me about honesty, integrity, and transparency. The acronym HIT.
Wow.
Tell me how. And here's the thing that I think we're both very similar in this. Not only from Pennsylvania, as you say, Pennsylvania, but I think that business and life, and people think they're separate subsets. They're not. It's all one. It's just life. And
Indeed.
I think that your HIT is life, business combined, and that's how you live your life with that transparency, honesty, and integrity. So why don't you dig into that?
Well, you hit it on the head. See, what I say is it's a life enterprise, right? And everyone in our life enterprise is a stakeholder. So we have stakeholders in our life enterprise. We owe it to them to walk up to them as the best version of ourselves.
Yeah.
because we are the CEO of our own life enterprise. So we owe it to them. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be the bag lady down the street. It could be whoever, who we run into in our life. And what Hit was actually formed when I had my little nervous breakdown. Basically, I lost my wife, my job, and all my money within a day. I'm not kidding. My first wife. And I just really hit rock bottom. And I was sitting at home. Two friends came over who happened to be female, but they said, "What's that box on top of your computer?" And I said, "That's all my notes I used to take when I was in my bars before they started running. I would write down my thoughts about the Gulf War, about Iraq." So they took them down. They were reading it. They said, "Man, this is amazing. Write a book." And I was like, "I think people want to read my book." And so they said, "Do it." So I did. I wrote 10 pages and sent it to some publishers. And they said, "We'll send someone over to interview you." So they interviewed me, and the guy was blown away, and he put it in a newspaper. And that newspaper came out the day the war started in 2003 in Iraq. So it was like, my book was a bestseller before it was even published. So honestly, so it wasn't even written yet. They had the title done. They had the picture done on the front. It was done and it was selling, but it wasn't even written yet. We didn't even start writing it yet at that point. And it took 2 weeks to write it. And then it came out. It was obviously a bestseller. And I got on TV, right? But not just on TV. Every day I was on TV, at least 3 different channels, because I was the only war veteran American who spoke German that they could find. So of all the channels in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, I was on TV every day. And this is where Hit was born, because I was standing there, and I'm always a very honest guy, but sometimes you don't say everything, you hold something back. And for me, that's strategy, tactics, whatever it is, want to be. But when it came to my personal life, where I was telling a story that would impact millions of people that were watching, I said, I have to be 100% transparent about why I did what I did and how I feel. And that was where Hit was born. And when I saw how well that happened, how I shot through the roof of popularity, of people just come up to me going, "I love you. You're amazing." And people calling me, and I had my life exploded then. So I started teaching that in all of my courses. So I still worked for the corporation, right? For that British PLC. We had ended up with 87 locations, which I opened up 35 of, and I hired and trained all the staff. So that was an operations, sales, you name it, secondary spend, revenue generation, all that kind of stuff. So that's what I did, and I started teaching what I called conscious leadership, which then those 3 words always came up: honesty, integrity, and transparency. Right? And that's when it turned into Hit. I just turned it into Hit about a year ago when I went online. I'm only been online for a year. So before that, I was traveling to like 9 countries every month. So it was crazy. So now I stopped all that. I live here in Budapest with my wife and 2 kids, 3 and 4 years old, and I do everything online. So Hit, what is Hit? Go ahead.
No. As a disclaimer, as a warning to those who would just try to jump off and be totally transparent with their seminal thoughts and try to regurgitate those thoughts. No. You got to have an emotional bandwidth. As you said, it's a strategy of knowing when to withhold, when to put forth. But when you're in the public eye and you are doing what you do, you've got to let it bleed. There's a Stones album for you. You got to let it bleed. If not, you're not relatable. People can feel it. They can sense it. They can smell it. You're done. Your credibility's gone. So tell me more about Hit, and then we're going to talk how you build trust.
Roger that. Honesty, integrity, transparency. Honesty, integrity, transparency. So honest with myself first. So it's always about yourself first. I have to be honest with myself first about why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then transparent about the decisions that I make. And if these decisions affect anyone else in my life enterprise, I have to let them know and include them into the decision-making process if I can. Right? So you see that in a lot of corporations, in the corporation I worked for, someone would just disappear and no one would ever talk about it. Like, what happened to John? I don't know what happened to John. It was like that. It was that kind of, it was that kind of thing. You're like, oh, geez, they fired him? I don't know. It was always one of these kind of things. That doesn't happen in my life. So what the byproduct of honesty with yourself and transparency with yourself, the byproduct is integrity. And the secret behind Hit is this, that when I walk up to you, to a group, to another company, to whoever it is I am there 100% fully for you there without any expectations. And because I have no expectations, I'm giving freely. And I like to say, give what you have, and the universe gives you back what you don't have. So I know that when I invest fully in you, my relational capital, I'm going to get it back somewhere, some way down the road. And what that does is it makes me so authentic that when someone mentions my name or talks about me, there's no one else that's, oh, is he like, no, he's not, because he's authentic. And that authenticity, here it comes, allows me to dictate my market value. So that means I can basically charge whatever I want for wherever I want, whoever I want.
There's
And I do.
there's so much platinum, it's not gold, in what you're saying. It needs to be broken down into pieces because you are in what I call alignment with what you think, what you say, and most important, what you do. And that alignment prevents the fissures of disappointment and dissatisfaction that come from being someone you're not. And I think the other thing too, you've got to know yourself. That was Socrates at the Oracle of Delphi. Know thyself. And then you have, as Shakespeare would write, you got to be true to yourself. And doing that creates that, I think that well of happiness that you can only have when you're in alignment with your true nature. And I think you nailed it right there with what you're.
And that key thing is no expectation. People say, "Well, how can I not have any?"
Got no expectations to pass through here again. But when you take disappointment off the table, the first place that disappointment comes from. This is Bill Wooditch, and maybe it comes from Pennsylvania. The first place where disappointment comes into the fore is when you have expectations, and generally we foist our own onto people. Yeah. They're unrealistic in some way. Or you
don't even tell them.
No, those are the best kind. Hey, wait, you just screwed up. You disappointed the hell out of me. What were your expectations? Oh, something more than that. So we live that vague, amorphous life. I mean,
it goes all the way to the wife and the husband, the partner, the kids, everything. I mean, you come home with flowers for your wife. Like, perfect example. I always use this example because I think every guy or woman knows this. You come home with flowers for your wife, right? And she's thinking, she won't say it. Oh, God, he wants something. Right. So, and you're thinking, maybe not. So you sit down for dinner and you're sitting there. No one says what they're thinking. She's thinking, God, he's pressuring me with those flowers. She's thinking that or whatever. And you're thinking, why is she looking like that? Maybe she doesn't want to do it. Then I get upset and she's like, oh, God. And next thing you know, you're arguing over the ketchup or something.
There is a little law of reciprocity working behind the scenes on this stuff. Even if you go in there with that, I don't expect anything at all, but there is that human need to reciprocate in some way, correct?
And that's what I mean by the universal give back. And this is what I mean. So imagine the joy in someone's life when you give them something, you say, here you go, man. And you just walk away. Don't say, hey, remember me, or don't forget this. And all that, just drop it. Just do it. And when you actually, the most amazing thing about doing this is when you actually give something to someone of value and you have no strings attached truly within you, you feel amazing.
Yes. Further to your point, I created more monetary value for myself by doing things of value that I didn't charge for, that I gave away freely, put down in writing. If this does not perform to your standards, we don't need a third-party arbiter. Don't pay me.
Yep.
And it became, I was given information and I had built a substantial client base that then referred me, that relatability factor, referred me. So it grew that way. It wasn't a manipulation. It was just.
We are a lot alike. Did you use that?
I love you because I see you reflected back to me in the mirror. So,
Did you use that "don't pay me if it doesn't work" thing? Put pressure on yourself?
Yes, I did. I thought if I'm not good,
I did the exact same thing.
I don't want you to pay for something that you expected. Here's the expectation to perform.
But you did it for yourself more, right? You did it because you knew that helps you drive.
It helped me sleep well at night. Yeah. It did. And
I know. I'm the same way.
And then the organization knew they were on point as well.
Yeah.
So everybody was invested in that.
There we go. I'm talking about relational capital again.
Let's talk about the one thing that differentiates you, and I can give you probably a million just from this podcast. But what is the one thing that differentiates you from your competition?
Well, I don't see myself as having any competition at all because I'm sort of I don't know what you want to call me. I like to call myself a business consultant, but I'm much more than that. And it's just, that's my caveat to get in the door. Because let's face it, if I walk up to a CEO and say, look, you're having problems in your business, this, and that, I'm like, yes, I know, we need to fix it. And be like, well, we got to start with you, my friend. They're going to be like, get the hell out of my office. So, you start with the processes. So I like to explain myself as the bridge between two sides of the river, the Ufer, they call it in German. And that's, as with, let's say, the book, The Secret, which you've probably heard of, right? Everyone's heard of The Secret. That's very esoteric, wishy-washy kind of stuff that they brought to the mainstream that people now understand as something that maybe is true. And the wishy-washy stuff over here, all the esoteric stuff, will always stay over here because these people will never go over here and read this because they think it's goofy. I'm the guy in the middle that sort of brings the two together. Right. And I'm very spiritual, very, very spiritual, meditate. I do my magic mornings. I do all that kind of stuff. And I have my daily purge and I have my affirmations at night. I do a lot of that stuff. And what that does is keeps me aligned with me, because all that stuff is about me. It's not about anybody else, right? So when I walk into a room, I own it. I literally own it. Like, I walk up to Bill Clinton, go, "Hey, Bill Clinton, how you doing?" He goes, "Hey, how you doing?" I don't even give him my name, because I use the first and last name of people like that. They always say hello, because they think, okay, if I say Bill, that's probably too friendly. Like, who the hell are you? If I say, Mr. Clinton or President Clinton, then obviously I'm a fan. But if I say Bill Clinton, they'll be like, "Hey, how you doing?" It works every single time. Every single time. It's crazy. So for me, I can't say I have any competition, and I'm not saying that to be arrogant, but I'm also not very big, if you know what I mean. I'm not very, world renowned yet. But like I said, I just started a year ago to get out of my shell of European businesses and Middle and Far East businesses. I've done a lot of business in Europe, a lot of business. I mean, I co-founded a political organization, which is now a party. I had to release myself from there because obviously as an American, I can't be part of that party. But it's now the second and third largest party in some of the states in Germany. I've worked in the European Parliament. I've spoken to Parliament. Worked with a lot of, I help people prepare themselves with their influence and their confidence and, like you said, personality and their presence. How do I walk into a room and own it, right? How do I walk into that room and just, without saying a word, I own it? People go, "Oh, who's that?" And I'll tell you how. Your elevator pitch is no more than 10 seconds. What do I do? What I do? What's the solution I provide? And that's it. Like, the end, done. What's the outcome of that solution? Done. I'm done in 10 seconds. And all I do from there on is ask you questions, elevate you. I always say this: I elevate everybody around me, so I'm in a funnel. So the funnel, everything falls towards me. Simple as that. Right. But you do it without expectations, and everybody wants to know who you are within 10 minutes.
Brilliant. That's the lead on the Instagram right there. It's just brilliant. How would you define, because you're so multifaceted, and I don't think you have competition. I think you are on the leading cutting edge. But how would you define success in your terms? Not something you would cut and paste from somebody else's generic bullshit. Real simple. Geographic and financial independence. There you go. Freedom.
That's it. Freedom.
William Wallace crying out for freedom, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right, brother.
You got to work.
Man, see, if I had some blue paint, I'd do it right now.
Since I just wrote a book on failure, I got to come out with this one, right? What do you think your biggest failure was? What was it, and what did you learn from it?
Well, yeah. First of all, I don't believe in failures, but that was before, before I did believe in failures, and that's why I failed. I think, the biggest failure I had, and I don't want to say it's a failure now because I have a beautiful wife, because it was my first marriage. Right, my first marriage, I didn't treat it like a marriage. I didn't treat it like I should have. I was like, okay, now I'm stable. Now I can go out and do what I need to do. So I was sort of like a launching pad for me. And so I completely ignored what reality was. It wasn't nice. So I think I screwed that up pretty royally. Although I was loyal, I never cheated, I never did any of that stuff. I mean, I was no infidelity at all. I wasn't even open to that. I didn't even see it. So I remember, because when I got divorced, I went back to work, and all these women showed up, and they're like, "You're single now, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." Women that I knew that I never even noticed, and suddenly they're wanting to go out with me. I was like, "That's weird." It's like, that's how deep I was into my work. So if I was that deep into my work, I can't imagine what my ex-wife thought. So yeah, that was a problem.
It was your universe.
But what's that?
It was your universe.
Yeah. You're right. So I don't know. I don't know. Failure to me, I think failure to myself is the biggest one. When I tried to, take my life back in 2008, I think it was probably the biggest failure to myself. I was had a toxic relationship at the time with a girlfriend who basically supported every hateful thought that I had about myself, but she actually spoke it out. So, you stay with these people to justify to yourself that you're shit, basically. And I let it go so far that I tried to take my life. So that was probably my biggest failure. I guess I could say that I tried that stuff. It didn't work, obviously. But I'd say that's my biggest failure. I don't know. I don't really talk about failures. I don't push them away since I work through them. Yeah. I have PTSD. So I have PTSD. I'm a war veteran of PTSD. The VA says you're screwed in the head. But when it comes, bring it. Come on, bring it. Come on. You can't hurt me. I will acknowledge your existence, failure. I will acknowledge it. I will eat it up. I will spit it out. Big deal. Not in a mean way. I'll let it pass through me. Yes, I feel it. It feels horrible. It's shit. I want to stab myself in the neck with a knife. Okay, but I'm not going to do it. So until you're done, I'm going to be upset. And then when you're out of my body, I'm done. That's how I deal with my PTSD battles. Like, you're not going to get me. You know why? Because I decide, Steven Kuhn, decide my life. Nobody else. Everything on the outside, I have to react to or I can act as I wish.
Yeah.
So if I know that I dictate my own actions, why would I ever get upset about anything on the outside? Boom, never.
You're not looking in the mirror and looking at denial and delusion. You're nailed. This thing is not being repressed. It's not going to like that Jack in the Box and all of a sudden it pops out. You're owning it. And then you're divesting yourself of it because you owned it. You acknowledged it, you own it. And you know what? The high achievers on this show have the hardest time answering that question because it's the question we ask on the show. I'm like, man, I really never really thought about failure as failure. And that's great. Because if you do, when you wrap yourself in that flag of failure, you become that. It's a setback, man. It's just part of the demands that success, the price of success.
What's it? Failure is, I don't know if it was the process, part of the process. I don't know. There's a saying in a book that I read that was really cool. I forget what it was. Like failures in your path or something, but they used a word that rhymed with failure that made it sound like it was really cool to fail.
If it rhymed, it's probably part of the excerpts from my soon to be published book.
Oh, probably.
I like to rhyme,
I wasn't researching whether you.
Where can we find you? And I don't mean geographically at this point. Where do we find you? Where do we get into this? Because this is fascinating. Where do we find you?
Well, I think right now, I have two things going on right now. First of all, my website is Steven with a V -KUHN.com. And I have two things going right now. I have a Facebook group that I ended it and restarted it because I wanted to reformulate it. And what it is, it's an online consulting group. So any entrepreneur, business owners, business owner operators can join. And we have Tuesday nights. We have high output learning from a Green Beret Special Forces veteran. On Wednesdays, we have me doing a hot seat, which is in 8 minutes. And then we have Thursdays, we have a business professional. So I had, for instance, the founder of the Dollar Beard Club came on and taught subscriptions. They did 10 million in the first year. I have funnel builders. I have tax attorneys. So I have some of the best people in the world that are known for doing what they do come into this group and teach what they know to the group members. It costs $149 a month. But what I'm doing right now is the bomb. It's the last goal-setting course you will ever need. And that's $99 one time, 8-week course, 8 videos, and 8 live Q&A sessions teaching you how to teaching you the process, what most people forget about. Set your goals, right? Manifest them and all that kind of stuff. And then you reverse engineer, of course, for when you want to get it done. But everybody forgets the middle, and that's creating habits and procedures to make sure that you win. I mean, the question I always ask to make it clear is this: everybody standing on that start line in the Olympics, they all have the same will to win, but the one who wins is always the one who has a better process. So if we can find processes to set your goals, you're going to reach your goals. And that starts the 2nd of January. Everybody can sign up right now, go to my page and click, how can I create impact? Boom, you hit that, you're going to get led right to the page.
What a value. What a value. You're underselling yourself.
Well,
I'm going to close with this. This could be a book, but I want you to try to keep this to a paragraph. You can write a paragraph. Steven Kuhn's no longer on this earth. He's going away. He's going to write this one paragraph for the rest of us to learn from. Paragraph about your life experiences, what you learned, and how we can avoid those traps. What would you write?
Wow. I got tears in my eyes from that one. I never thought of that. I think the impact of your life doesn't necessarily have to do anything with your name, with your identity. I think it has to do with the people you touch and the things that you leave behind that actually affect more lives than not. So, when people say, hey, who did that? Or what was it? Oh, some guy from Pennsylvania. I think it's less your name or who you are than more of your impact. And I mean like real, tangible, amazing impact. And that's what I'm still out for.
Love it. Man, we're going to have you back.
I'd love to.
2, 3, and probably 4, right, Kels? You're amazing. This is the Unstoppables. This is the place where you learn how to be unstoppable from the people who are. And Steven Kuhn is one of those. I've learned something today. I mean, I've learned a whole lot of stuff. I can't wait to read this and get back through it again. It's great stuff. Steven, thank you. Stay on.
Thank you.